In continuing to talk about the collection that I bought in February of 2021 in Kansas, I have here a bunch of cards, a few more stacks off to my left here off the screen, where I went through the commons and uncommons, or what I thought were commons and uncommons, and pulled out some of the more notable rares and other such cards of note. So the first stack I have, this is the played cards. So main characters, vehicles, starships, weapons, and stuff that were in kind of rough shape. There's some decent ones in here, like Luke with lightsaber. A lot of clouding and edgeware. These are all playable cards, but there's definitely some damage here. I've seen a lot of played executors over the years with that pretty severe edge white they get, and Dagobah seems to be more prone to it, the edge white. But Chewie, some weapons. Fairly nice Falcon. You can see the clouding there with all the glare there, some clouding. Borders weren't too bad, but when I saw the clouding, I'm like, oh yeah, that's played. This Rogue One's real close, just on the side. You can hardly see it there in the upper left, though, right behind the left thruster. There is some binder wear there. So that one's marginal, but I tossed it in the plate pile just because that bending was just a bit too much to be SP at near mint in my estimation. And a Master Luke with some notches at the top. These guys all had notches at the top, and then the Leia wasn't in great shape. But yeah, everything here is playable, would be real nice in a deck. Just got to sell it at a bit of a discount. Also had a bunch of foils in here. Most of the good foils were in the binders that I flipped through in the previous videos, but some good ones in here, some main characters that I wasn't necessarily expecting to find. Bounty hunters. I guess Crix isn't really a main character, but he's pretty close. And foils always look good. Some Reflections 3 cards of note. So a few Reflections 3 foils that I found in the commons and uncommons. That's not bad. And then a tournament foil. You are beaten. Pretty big foil line on that one, unfortunately. You can kind of see it right there. Foil line. And then the next stack is what I would call secondary rares. So these were, when I first did my store, probably 6 years ago, I found a bunch of rares that I was like, oh yeah, these should sell as singles. But later on, I found a bunch more, so I did a whole nother wave. So some of them are more valuable than what I call the main rares, but just because of when I discovered them, that they were worth selling as singles, they get put in this category. So I keep them in a separate binder. But there's the corrected R3PO. It's been hard to keep this card in stock. The original one, the one that actually went out with the printing, was used the same image as K3PO. And this is technically an uncommon, I believe, but it's such a popular card that I sell it as a single. Just like Boss Nass's Chambers. That was never much until a new Han came out from the virtual cards, and now it's probably the best Han there is. Whoops. Another concussion grenade. An objective here. This one's kind of beat up. That might go in my played stack. Dark Jedi Presents. Always good to get these. They seem to sell a lot. Another Smuggler's Blues and Reflections. So the new Han and Leia. Got a couple of those. And Life Debt. So yeah, most of the cards here, you know, probably $2 on average, but some of them are more. And the last stack, the biggest stack, that was basically what I would call mains that were all mixed in with the commons and uncommons in the bulk boxes. So this is a pretty big stack. There's a few more there underneath it. But all sorts of neat stuff. In fact, it's such a big stack, I can't really hold things properly, so I'm going to move it out of the way so I can get my hands in there. Okay. So just a lot of main characters and their ships. Probably a few Leias coming. I remember seeing a bunch right next to each other. Not a very playable card, but it is the best, one of the more sought-after cards in Jabba's Palace. Starships and bounty hunter weapons. A lot of those. Got a nice Luke here, Hoth Luke. An Executor in good shape, this one is. Another Hoth Luke. And in a pretty good Vader. I don't know if you can kind of, well, it's really hard to tell. There's just a bit of a wrinkle right over the Imperial marker. That one I'll probably mark it as plate. Well, it's really hard to get that to show up. You can kind of see it's kind of uneven there. So not a played card, but at least SP. Is that awesome? Sorts of more bounty hunters and then their weapons. Hans, a lot of Dagobah, Cloud City, Jabba's Palace here. Not necessarily the best stuff. But a good Obi-Wan and a Tarkin. Very nice Vader here. It's always good to find a black border Vader in the commons and uncommons. It's a little bit off-center, but the edges and the corners are real good. Surface, too. I'll probably get that in a penny sleeve real soon. Couple Reflections 3. There wasn't a ton in this collection, but it's awesome there. Back to Tarkin, another Blizzard 1, a nice card. Lots of bounty hunter ships. Good copy of the Death Star. AAT, it's actually an uncommon, but depending on the circumstances, they're often popular enough to count as rares in terms of being worthwhile selling as singles. And I didn't notice before, but this 4 concussion rifle is pretty beat up, so I'm probably going to toss this in the played pile. Quite a bit of edge white, especially on that front left side. Stormtrooper Garrison, I found this just in the middle of a bunch of, I think it was just common and uncommon Imperial characters, and that's a solid $20 card at least, so that was exciting. A Leia, kind of almost like she had been premier cards. They don't necessarily stick together, but they aren't as much glossed over as the other cards are. So I think it kind of got caught in a stack, even though, I mean, it's in real nice shape. Nothing happened to the card, but I think it just got hidden behind another card and not found until I happened to come across it. And here's some Dagobah that does look a little bit rough. I guess I didn't notice before, but in this light it's a lot easier to tell. So those will go in the played pile too. But yeah, tons and tons of bounty hunter ships and weapons. They're not the most valuable cards, but together, if you want to get a nice set of them, it's the best cards from Dagobah, so together they can be worth a little bit. These are the 1999 Tempest Scout 3 and Tempest Scout 1s. Those are the originals, not the reprints. The originals are worth a little bit more. And a few mains here towards the end. Back to bounty hunters, of course. It seems like if I want to build a bounty hunter deck, I'll have enough for 4 or 5 of them just from this stack. Nice white butter Vader Saber. Oh, that's a secondary rare according to my sorting, so I'll put that one over there too. And the last couple cards. Blaster Deflections, Mandalorian Armor, Rogue 4, pretty nice with Hobby on board. And then this one was a very cool one to see. Weren't a lot of Japanese cards in the set or in the collection that I bought, but Japanese Han Solo. So I don't know if I did have at one point a Luke Skywalker many years ago. It was in a collection that I bought, and I believe that it was just somebody got it out of a Reflections 3-pack. I should say Reflections 2-pack. So I'm guessing that's where this Han came from too, because I just saw a handful of Japanese cards in the whole collection, but I'm not going to take it out of the sleeve right now, but looking at it, it was, when I first saw it, very nice shape. Maybe not necessarily mint, but definitely a near mint card, and with as crazy as the market is for Japanese right now, that was nice to see in terms of trying to make back my investment on the collection. So those were the highlights from the commons and uncommon boxes, or at least what I thought was going to be mostly that. And there were hundreds of other decent rares, or I should say miscellaneous rares. So some of them are decent. Most of them are often sought by people who want to just complete their collections, and I do sell mixed lots of those on eBay, but Han was definitely the highlight. Anyways, this is probably the last video in the collection that I'm doing a video on. a collection I'm doing these videos on, but I have another collection coming up soon, so I hope you tune in for that one, as well as my deck videos, which you can see, as well as just my general sealed product opening videos. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.